Welcome to the podcast about startups. When you start up, you start a business. So here we go. This is a podcast about your first $5 million. This podcast is titled 5E6. 5E6 stands for 5 million. $5 million. 5 million yuan. 5 million. And this is the amount of money that would give someone freedom. Freedom to not have to work for somebody else. Freedom to do your own project, because 5 million saved in the bank at 2% annual interest would yield enough money to support the basic living cost of that person. The earlier somebody gets to this 5 million goal, the better, because you get the freedom earlier while you're still young. So the mission of this class, the mission of this podcast is to tell you how to get there, is to get you motivated, and to tell you why you have been fooled by schools, by everyone else. Thank you very much, and let's go. What if I tell you that there is a science to become rich, but no one teaches you? Would you listen to me? Now, you can always have a ton of videos about how to get rich quick. And if you believe those, then you can listen to all of them, and you can learn a little bit from every piece, and you might benefit a little bit, but this is not going to give you $5 million. Now, what do I mean by $5 million? This podcast is called 5E6. 5E6, $5 million, give you what? It gives you freedom. Freedom is more important than skills, more important than effort. Freedom means that you can decide where to put your skill set. Freedom makes you free to put your time wherever you deem important, rather than spend 8 best hours of a day to do what other people ask you to do. So freedom is what I want to give you the mindset. If you don't have freedom, then you're going to spend your whole life being a financial slave of somebody else, no matter how much they pay you. Now, what makes me qualified to tell you about this? I have lived over 50 years, and I was a professor. I was an entrepreneur, and I have been in industry and academia, been to Shenzhen and Silicon Valley. I'm recording this as if that I'm talking to my younger self when I'm 21 or 24. And I want that person to pay attention. I know that I probably fail at getting that person's attention, but I'll try. Let's first talk about the difference of having a job versus having a business. Most people on earth are wage earners. They are job seekers, they job holders. They are living from month to month, from paycheck to paycheck. This is what's called having a job. Now, how hard it is to have 5 million from a job, right? Let's say you get paid a very respectable $200,000 a year. That's a pretty high salary for many U.S. cities. And you make that for 25 straight years. If you can last that long, you do make $5 million. Now, however, keep in mind that out of that 5 million, you pay most of that to the taxman. You pay at least half of that to tax, various forms of tax. And you have to buy a house with money, you have to buy a car with money, you have to buy groceries, energy, everything with money. So in the end, you're probably left with nothing. You do have what's called a nest egg. The nest egg is retirement fund that you can use after you can no longer work. But that's a separate issue. The retirement fund you can never touch before age 65. And by age 65, you know what happens, right? So even this $5 million that you get from your paycheck, after you get this 5 million, you are already 45 years old. You are beyond your prime. Maybe you think you are at your prime, but you're actually beyond your prime. Your trajectory in life has already been set. You cannot have enough time to change a lot of things. So this podcast want to give you the mindset that if you want to have $5 million and you want to be free, you cannot just count on having a job. You have to have a business. Either you go steal a business, rob one, or you start one. Let's talk about how to start a business. And this is the stuff that schools never teach. And they don't teach you this for a reason. It's not out of simply ignoring. Part of the reason is because all the things that I'm about to teach you is not even known by the teachers. As I said, I was a teacher. The teachers don't know. So you cannot expect their students to know. Let's talk about the $5 million goal. $5 million is very hard to reach. Like I said, even if you have $200,000 a year salary and you make that for 25 years, that's a very high salary. And that's a very long career. You only made $5 million, but you're left probably with nothing. You are working poor. So how do you make $500 million in free cash that you can save in a bank? You may say, oh, I'm not in the United States. I'm in China. I'm in Thailand. Well, you can use that 5 million and for whatever currency denomination that you use, it's going to be about right? Unless it's a very strange country with huge inflation. So 5 million is a goal that I want to set for the students of this podcast. Now, you can have extremely high-paying jobs. Okay, you're a CEO or something. Then yes, you can get there. But that's a separate art. You can invest very smartly in stocks at a very young age. And most people do not have the principles. Okay. The third is to have your own business. You own some business. You can sell the business. You can make money from the business. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about number 3. A lot of smart people are destroyed by this. People have the wrong idea about ideas. Now, what do I mean by this? A lot of people spend their whole life thinking and trying to come up with what they call the perfect idea. A perfect idea is the opposite, is the enemy of a good idea. They spend all this time thinking about idea, and this is based on the assumption that a good idea will get funding, a good idea will get money, a good idea would be liked. So people spend all this time thinking and never try to put their ideas to practice, never try to realize their ideas. You have to prove your idea with a product. You have to make a product to deliver your idea. You have to prove acceptance with sales. A lot of smart people don't have any skills of selling things. And you have to prove growth and survival. Again, a lot of smart people don't have the business skills and know-how to grow. So this idea about ideas is very harmful for smart people. And if you want to get to 5E, 5 million, you have to have your own business. And to have your own business, you have to start a business. And to start a business, you must go beyond ideas. You must Go way beyond the idea. Otherwise, you will be stuck there. Part 4, way beyond smart, the bigger school. A lot of people believe in being smart, especially students. Students are all about smartness. Oh, I'm smart. Oh, he is not so smart. He is not smarter than me. I'm smarter than that person. As if smart is everything. Well, smart is important. But keep in mind that there are truly not many people who are truly, truly dumb. Even the student who are ranked the last in your class is not that much dumber than you. They probably just developed a little bit slower. So don't use smart to forecast the success. Timing and money are both crucial. Someone with a lot of money to start with would have some advantage. Some people who took advantage of timing, they did something during the when the stock bubble bursted. They did something when the stock market was really, really down. They would have tremendous advantage than someone who is just smart. And I'm saying this because I don't consider myself a dumb person, but I have seen myself basically coming from a background with no money, because I come from a country where communism was a rule, and timing is a lot of times you underestimate the importance of timing. Okay, so smartness is really important, but it's not a it's not something that determines solely the outcome. Experience is a level of smart. Experience means you learn the things that are not taught in books, that are not written in books, in the real world. Experience is not a dirty word. It's not for someone who is not smart. Experience is real learning. You have to go to what I call a bigger school, a bigger school, a bigger school than Stanford, a bigger school than Harvard, a bigger school than Berkeley, a bigger school than University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Ultimately, you have to go to that bigger school. You want to learn business and you want to learn industry. Those are not electives. Those are required courses if you want to get rich. And I will explain to you why. You have to throw away the mentality about smart. And that's the moment when your life starts to change. Now, a lot of people would say, how do I get a good idea? How do I find a good idea? Most people's answer to this is, I'll keep thinking. I'll think smartly. And they keep thinking, they keep dreaming, and it is fun to think about ideas. But actually, that's wrong. Okay. Good ideas come when you are doing the idea. Good ideas come when you are trying to realize the idea. When you are trying to realize an idea, you go to experience the real world, real industry, real society, and ideas will come to you. Those are not called ideas anymore. Those are called inspiration, serendipity. Those are more important ideas. You meet those ideas. Many people who are entrepreneurs were in sales or they were in fund management. And the reason is because they see a lot of the world every day when they are selling things, when they are managing other people's fund, when they are analyzing companies, right? The Starbucks was started by Howard Schultz. He was a salesperson. Amazon was started by Jeff Bezos. He was a fund manager. They were all very successful at their jobs. They all reached vice president level of their job sector. And after that, they quit their job and started their business. So their ideas come from observing their ideas are not made by thinking every day in a isolated library. This is where good ideas come from, not from smartness. Well, welcome to the 5E6 podcast. This is the podcast trying to help you make $5 million. Not $5 million in retirement savings, and not just cumulative $5 million of income, but $5 million in cash. I have mentioned before that this is for your freedom. This is not for money. $5 million buys you freedom. The freedom is from a contract of society where the society want everyone to work until they are old, until they are 45, until they are 65, so that you can no longer work for yourself. The freedom is important. You want to get to this freedom goal as fast as you can. And we discussed that this can only be done through owning business or through starting your own business. This is not a podcast to try to sell people the idea of get rich quick or try to sell people the idea of starting up, be an entrepreneur. I've been there, done that, and there's certain risks, but I do want to give you a pathway or explain the science of how to become rich. Now, if you want to start a business, if you want to become a businessman, if you want to be on the path to success, the 4 essential steps of starting a business is number 1, to make a product. You cannot make a product by sitting in your room and thinking every day. You have to make a product and you have to sell it. However you want to sell, you have to sell them. Selling is not easy. That's why companies like Amazon and Google are so rich, because they are advertising companies. They help people advertise and sell. And then you have to show that you can grow your business. If you're not growing your business, then the business is dying, or you're not going to have investment. Somebody else will take over your business. So you have to scale. Those are the 4 steps of how to have a business. And most people never touch the first step, which is to make a product, make an artifact, make something. And this is actually not easy. If you're in computer science, it's a little bit easier because your product is a collection of codes. Your product is not a physical thing. But to sell the product, to grow the product, everyone requires a set of skills that they don't teach at schools. And after that, you have to defeat copycats, build a brand, build a sustainable brand. There's a lot of steps. 5E6 is not easy. 5E6 is hard. That's why most people don't reach it, and our society actually don't care. Building a business is extremely hard. There are 4 critical stages, 4 mile markers that anyone has to go through. And it's very easy to underestimate how hard they are. The first is your first sales. Making the first sale is not easy, okay? A lot of people don't even try selling a lemonade. They don't have a first sale of lemonade. They don't have a first sale of their own product. Then the next one that's hard is to have the first employee. Yes, everybody is an employee. Most people are. But you don't know the cost of you to the organization that you work for. Having a first employee is very expensive. You have to pay for that person's salary, and you have to pay for that person's benefit. You have to pay for that person's severance if you hire a bad person, and so on. Having a first person who amplify your own effort is not easy. And then you have to have the first break even. What's a break even? A break even means that your cost and your revenue are the same. It means that your company can grow without further infusion of investment. This is not easy, okay, because it requires you to have a profit. It requires you to uh, be able to sustain your business forever. Now, profit is not easy. Profit is the cost of doing business. A lot of people just think, oh, the business people make all the money, but they don't know the cost of their money making. The cost is tremendously high because everyone relies on the supply chain, and their things are provided by someone. If you are a Google, cloud service provider, then you need to buy the chips from NVIDIA, and NVIDIA don't want to charge you low. They want to charge you as much as you can tolerate, right? So cost is very important. Those are the four milestone markers: the first sale, first employee, first break even point, and first profit. Every one of them is hard. Well, life is like a Mario Kart game. I don't know if you played that game. I hope you have played some games before so you can relate to this analogy. Um, Life is a game, but most people only have one go at it. And they fail, they say, oh, well, I failed. Uh, Most people, you can imagine, you're not going to be very successful at playing a competitive Mario game if you only have one try. You have to fail many times. You have to lose many times. And this is the thing that our schools don't teach you. Schools make sure that you get a job, and jobs make sure that you slowly accumulate some money. But by the time you accumulated some money, your life is gone. You have your one goal at the Mario game, and you don't even have time to lose something, to gain big, to start your own business. This is what I mean. And we talked before about the 5E6. $5 million of free cash is your price for freedom. And the schools don't teach you how to do this because schools want you to become a lifelong employee. Schools want you to be a employee holding a job for your whole life, for the prime time of your life. And that's, to me, a bit sad. So this podcast is about how to get to 5E6, 5 million of free cash flow so that you can have your freedom. To have your freedom, I discussed before, you cannot just have a job and accumulating your money, collecting paychecks. You have to do more. You have to have a business, own a part of business, or start your own business. Now, business is not isolated. There's no company on earth that is purely isolated from everyone else. There is a concept called a demand chain or supply chain, depending on your perspective. The world starts with a consumer or a collection of consumers. This consumer wants something, and he or she typically buys it from what's called a retail store, from a Mariano's, from a Walmart. Then Walmart get it from multiple suppliers, and each supplier gets it by assembling multiple suppliers, and so on and so forth. And this forms what's called a supply chain or demand chain. The customer have a demand. The customer demand a piece of bread. The customer demand a yogurt. The customer demand a swimming trunk. The customer demand a pair of sunglasses. And then there is a chain of people providing this. The world is run on this what's called supply chain or demand chain. And right now, in 2026, most of the chain ends somewhere in China, and the consumer is somewhere in a heavily industrialized country like the United States. But this is the chain. And if you have a business, you don't have to be someone selling directly to this end consumer. You can be someone selling it to another chain, another node on the chain. That's called to B business. You don't have to be selling something directly to the customer, to the consumer. So there are many ways and many businesses, but you should also realize that there are very limited demand. People don't demand everything all the time. People may want something. They may want to go to a, Bad Bunny's concert. But if they don't go there, nothing's lost, right? But people demand 3 meals every day. People demand a, a t-shirt that they can afford. People demand a car that doesn't break down. And those are the limit of demands. And every business have to hang on this chain of demand. Otherwise, your business don't have a firm outlet, and your business will not be strong. So any company that, whether it's tech company or whatever, if they don't have a basis, if you don't have a foundation of a demand, you don't get to grow. You don't get to be treated preferentially. So this is a structure of business. This is called the business world. If you're in this business world, you're called in business. If you cannot survive anymore, you're said to be out of business. I'm out of business. That's what it means. When you have a product and when you want somebody to buy it from you, you have to set a price. Price is very important for any business. Price. For the buyer, the price is the cost of their decision to keep your product. When you say, I'm willing to pay a price, that means you're willing to sacrifice it with something good. So people are paying the price of giving you the money. And for you, if you sell something to someone, then you get the reward of cash. And the ability to set a price, however, is not natural. You cannot just say, oh, this thing costed me this much. I'm going to add a 5% profit for myself, and that's your price. Well, you may be able to be successful for one or two people, but that's actually not going to be sustainable. You have to set your price at a level that the buyer would accept. And that level is way lower than your cost sometimes. And when somebody buys something from you, let's say this is the merchandise, and this is a price you set, your cost has to be somewhere, ideally, under the price. But what people are buying is not just a price. They expect value. The value is what you don't charge them. Okay, the value is the hidden assurance. When you buy an Apple product, for example, people pay a very high price, but Apple also give them the value. Part of the value is we are the status symbol. We are good with many functionalities that we did with our research. So people who are buying from you, they don't see the price the same way as you see a price. You price your product based on your cost, but people base their price based on the cost to them, and they have to see a value. This is what's called the value proposition. You can't just name a price. And ideally, your cost should be lower than your price. Otherwise, you don't get to make any profit, right? But to keep your cost under your price is very difficult because your suppliers would also want to make money from you. And if you don't have the power to keep the price higher than your cost, then you don't have a business. Okay. For example, in 2026, the company OpenAI have a problem. they they have a price, but this is way over than their cost. So they're losing money with every sales that they make. It's obviously not sustainable. Business have this very simple logic of price, value, and cost. The buyers don't care about the price, they care about the value. And you have to care about both the price, the value, and the cost. So business is actually very, very interesting. It's not something where you just try to name your price. No, no, no. Nobody gets to name your price unless you have done tremendous amount of hard work. Let's talk about elements of a sustainable business. A business that is not sustainable will eventually die. And this sounds like an obvious statement, but many people uh, have a hard time trying to fight this. What is a sustainable business? A sustainable business can last a long time, can last almost forever. So it must have, number one, sales. Got to be able to sell products. And it needs to have profits. To have profit, we discussed before, you need to have pricing power. Pricing needs to be bigger than the cost. Now, once you have this, you need to have what's called the moat, the barrier of entry, because other people are going to copy you, and some people with more money are going to copy you, and they want to be you. So you must be able to stop them from doing this. This is, some people call this a secret sauce. You need to have something that other people cannot copy. Or when they copy, they become you. So there's no point in copying you. Controlling the cost is crucial. If you want to have sustainable cost control and sustainable profit, you need to provide value, and value is the quality. The quality of your product have to be good. To have good quality, you need to have good people or talent. And people and talent, they want a good job. They want a well-paying job. So you have to have money to pay them. Therefore, a good business must be able to have large amount of profit, and it needs to keep growing over time. Because good people like to work for a growing company. Good people don't work for a company that is not moving. So those are the elements of a sustainable business. If you look at any company, you evaluate the potential or the valuation of any company, here are at least the easiest element that anyone should use. We talked about value. I mentioned before that people pay a price when they see a value, right? Nobody is going to just pay you a certain profit above your cost. People want to pay a price that they feel is worth their sacrifice. So value is crucial. A lot of times value is created by scaling. When you go to a gas station and you fill your car with some gasoline, now think about where that gasoline come from. And think about how much work is needed to transport it, to process it, and to store it. And think about how much you are actually paying for a gallon, right? Now, you feel value because it is a lot of work, but you don't have to pay for most of the work that was performed. Now, how is that possible? It's because the value is created by scaling. When a oil company becomes very big, then they can scale. They can cover the cost with a lot of products, a lot of barrels. Without this, gas would be very expensive, and nobody is going to buy it. So think about scaling like this. Each individual is like a red blood cell. In a human being, a regular human being, think about how many red blood cells are there. Now, this is similar to a vision of a road where you have trucks moving. Think about how many trucks you see every day on a road. Now, this is scaling. Scaling is truly beyond a lot of people's individual. You have to have large number of products, large number of volumes in order for the price to become very low. Now, over the past 12 episodes, I have discussed that there is a goal of $5 million to buy your freedom. And I mentioned that this is crucial and this cannot be done with regular jobs, accumulation of money. And this has to be done through ownership. Or if you can't own a lot, then you have to start some business. I do want to mention that the startup is typically advertised as a fantastic, very glorious endeavor, but actually it's very expensive. It's very harsh. A lot of people are not well prepared. And startup is a expensive experiment. It is an experiment because when you are starting a business, you have to find the audience. This is you. This is your buyer. And you have to find the buyer. The buyer have to find you. And this is very expensive. And they have to find the pricing acceptable. And you have to find a way to sustain that pricing through your cost control or through your business method, right? This match of value, this value proposition matching can only be done in real life. You have to do this like a scientific experiment. If people don't buy from you, then it means that you cannot succeed. So startup is a very expensive experiment. It's not because of somebody's smart thinking. It's no matter how smart you are, in the end, it is always a test. It is always a hypothesis. It is always an experiment. It is an experiment that the rich people can do. Bill Gates started in a relatively well-off family. His dad is a big-time lawyer in Seattle. Or sometimes desperate people who have no idea how to make a living. And a good example is Carl's Jr. Right? The Carl's Jr. is a restaurant chain. It was started by a man named Carl, and he has no other means to support his family, so he started to sell hot dogs. So a lot of times, startup is not made by smart people. It could be smart people, but really they have a rich family. They have a lot of financial backing, or the person may not be very well educated, but they are more desperate than you. So over time, they succeed. What I want to say is that as an entrepreneur, you stand to lose everything, big loss. Entrepreneurship is cruel, is harsh, and you can lose everything. And most people do lose everything, including whatever they had before. If you want to have money, then don't do entrepreneurship. You do entrepreneurship only when you try to have a business. And this is a very valuable lesson that nobody taught me. Now, I want to say that no business is truly honest. And what I mean is that every business have a little bit of a scammy side. Every business have to have a little bit of a scam because they have to fight. Okay, business is war. Business is not a normal everyday life thing. A business is war. When you say I'm in business, you're telling people I'm in war. And when you tell people I'm a businessman, you're basically telling people I'm a soldier. I'm not a normal citizen. A business is war. So think like that, right? In a war, most of the generals are not completely honest, or at least you cannot be completely honest to everyone. Uh, Else you're going to be losing every single time. So a business person happens to be quite honorable, in my opinion, but they always have a little bit of the scammy side. If you don't, then congratulations, but you may still be subject to competition from other people who are scammy. So in business, there's a word such as, bait and switch. Sounds familiar? Bait and switch. Hook and crook. Those are things that people would look at a business person and say, look, that person is no good. But actually, you have to give them a little bit of a leeway because business itself really sometimes people have to resort to that kind of things. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just trying to explain why most business have to resort to some kind of information asymmetry to gain some advantage. Gaining advantage in business sometimes can be considered quite scammy. And it happens to a lot of companies. I don't want to name, but if you ask me in the comment, I will give you examples. Be very careful about school and schooling. A lot of people spend their youth 20, 25 years at school, and then they go to get a employment, they get a job for another 25 years. So for 50 years, they basically stay within the zone of school and jobs. That's why it is very difficult to tell people that you have to be very aware of schools. Schools is really just kind of like a summer camp of life. You have to go to a bigger school after you're done with school. And the bigger school is industry, is society, is company, is startup, is business. Those are the things that no ordinary schools would teach. In school, people learn a lot of general knowledge, but in a business or in industry, people learn deep knowledge. It's sometimes called a T uh, knowledge, right? You have broader knowledge and then deep knowledge. The deep knowledge in industry is also knowledge, and they can only be learned in the real world. Industry produce a lot of knowledge that they don't write in books. So it is very important for people to know that everyone should endeavor to go to a bigger school. I'm not trash talking about schools. Schools have their place in society, and they enable some people to become much, much more successful. But schools do not enable you to have a $5 million freedom saving. Schools are not made to produce that. If you're selfish for yourself, you should think about it. And if you like to learn things, then you should think about learning outside of school after the commencement speech is over. In part 16, I'm going to talk about a very interesting concept. Is you can only become rich by taking risk. Rich through risk. Without risk, there is no rich. Risk makes people rich. Risk can also make people dirt poor. But if you want to get rich, you have to take the risk while you have a chance of being dirt poor. There's a Chinese saying, success comes from niches and fortunes come from risks. A lot of people like to live a certainty. They have certain comfort and they have certain pride. And if you like to do that, then you know that you will never become dirt poor, but you will never become super rich. You will never get to the $5 million goal. You will have some money, you will have some savings, you will have your decency, but you're not going to be free. You're always going to be an employee. And this is very, very controversial, but it is true. If you want to be in business, be very mindful that it is going to be the hardest life you will ever see. It is much, much harder. In the bigger schools, you have to learn with real cost, with real losses. Now, when people try to sell something or they try to make a company, make a product, and when they imagine if people would buy it, people like to use this term need. And they even invented terms like hard need or soft need. And they try to use semantics to justify if people need this or not, right? Um, this is actually, unfortunately, not true. A lot of things can have different levels of usefulness or neededness. Something can be useful. For example, ChatGPT is useful to me sometimes. Do I need ChatGPT? No. I think I can do everything that a ChatGPT can do through some other means. So I don't need ChatGPT. Do I demand something? What are the things that I demand? ChatGPT or lunch? Well, I demand lunch every day. So lunch is a demand. And ChatGPT is useful, but it's not needed. Now, the next thing is beneficial. When people buy something from you, they have to be receiving a benefit. They have to be receiving some extra value above the cost, above the price they pay. No one parts with money easily. If you want to have a business and you want to find some steady customers, it is very important that the product is beneficial to them and they cannot find a common replacement from you. Then they will pay you. They will pay you every time. They would actually demand, they will look for you. They will search the internet to look for you. Okay, so when you start something, never just say, oh, this thing sounds useful. Let's make it. No, that's not enough. You have to find the population where this thing is demanded and you provide benefit. After you have a product and you want to sell it to another person, this is you and you have a product. Now, this is not as easy as it seems on this picture. The cost of finding this person is very high. This person does not automatically appear in front of you. Even if you have a product and you put it on a web page, this person still need to see the web page and get interested. This is a very, very costly process. What makes it even more costly is that selling has to be done in a market. Okay. You do not sell anything unless it is in a market. A market has competing products. A market is where this potential buyer can explore all the options. If a person does not see all the options, they will not buy. Does this sound familiar to you? Does it mirror some of your behavior when you buy things? Then that's the same behavior that other people exhibit. So the selling is a very, very costly process. Just after you make a product, um, you have to spend immense amount of money to set up a shop in a market. And a lot of people have to come in and they go through a funnel, typically 1,000,000 to 1. 1,000,000 people who get a impression would end up with one person buying. That's how big the funnel and conversion rate is. This is honestly a very noisy system. That's why people are willing to spend so much money on advertising, on boosting. Boosting costs money. So this all add to the cost of your product. If you cannot control that cost of funnel formation, market position, then you don't sell anything. Over time, your product become better known and you have a brand. That takes a long, long time. And time equals money. So selling is not done by approaching an individual randomly and tell the person how useful it is to him. That doesn't sell. I used to have a product that I tell people can save their lives. If they don't use my product, they might die. They don't care. That's amazing. The bar for selling something is very, very high. Investment is not free money. A lot of people approach investment like it's free money. They want to ask for a small amount and they promise that they will pay them back. And they don't have money themselves, so they ask for as little money as possible to get started. This is not going to work. Investment is not free money. People who invest in you does not need a little bit of a cash flow. They typically have it. They are typically 10 times richer than our goal. They probably have $50 million in their bank. That's when they have some discretionary money that they want to invest and they want to take ownership, just like you. Never fall into the trap where you keep thinking about better ideas and try to get some small amount of money from an investor to try. You need to have tried it, and the investor sees a potential and sees a quick path for their money to grow very rapidly, very certainly. That's when they invest, and they want to invest as much as possible. They don't want to invest a tiny little amount. And they don't care about how much money you make. That's your business. However profit you make, it goes only to prove to future investors that your business is worth money. They really don't want to take money off your profit, and they want to sell their stake in your company. That's how investment work. There is nothing wrong about the education system. We have terrific schools throughout the world, and they produce good employees and they help people hold jobs and improve their financial status. That's not the point. The point is that there is a bigger school. The bigger school is called society, industry, marketplace, and our schools do not teach our graduates about the bigger school, do not tell them how to compete, and that's the problem. So schools offer a lot of hallucination. Hallucination through maybe the absence of teaching explicitly. Schools tell people about fairness, about honesty. They do not teach people about competition and winning. Schools tell people about ideas and smartness. They do not teach people about experimentation, about opportunity seeking, about capital requirement, and those kind of things. Schools pay a lot of attention to knowledge, general knowledge, but not enough about deeper knowledge or know-how. You can imagine if our schools do not play an active role in teaching people about business, in teaching people about starting business, it will not play a role in making sure that you become financially free. That's why good students in the end feel very disappointed because they think that just being a good student already guarantees those outcomes. That's not true. You have to enroll in a bigger school after your commencement, your graduation from a regular university. This is very critical. It is quite extraordinary for me to realize at a much later stage in life that our schools really don't teach people about money. And the very limited amount of knowledge related to money, cash flow, personal financing are all obtained kind of randomly from various sources. And a lot of these sources have manipulated bad information. Let me give you a few examples about personal finance hallucination. Now, one of the things that you should know about human beings is that human beings have a complex of both fear and greed. People want more, but they're afraid to lose. A lot of our behaviors are governed by this complex, where fear and greed are present at the same time. Financially, everyone wants safety. You want to grow your money, but you want your money to never lose, to never decrease. And so, with this in mind, people are open to a lot of hallucination and bad teaching. One of the things that I came to realize is a teaching about index funds. People always tell you that you should invest in index funds and diversify your portfolio. The real question is why? You know, if you have one good stock and you invested in it for 5-10 years, you get quite a lot of returns. But if you invest in five, then you get the average of five of them, which can never be as good as the best one you got. And what's even worse is that some of the stocks might be going down where the other ones are going up. So you have the increase canceled. Obviously, this is so widely and naturally believed that nobody questioned it. Why should someone invest in a basket of stocks, right? If you ask Elon Musk to sell his stocks in Tesla and get an index fund, would Elon Musk agree to that? If you ask Warren Buffett to do the same, would Warren Buffett do it? Obviously not, right? So this is proof enough that good investment in single stocks will give you better returns. Of course, I don't want to sound like I'm giving financial advice because good stocks are hard to find. And so a lot of people are lazy and they just go for this index, which gives some returns that's better than nothing, but still that's way worse than what the best stocks can give you. So there's a lot of hallucination about personal financing. And by the time you figure that out, you have made all the wrong decisions run their course. So be very careful. And you don't want to trust your own instinct, but you don't also want to just trust the experts. Now, business is obviously associated with luxury and high spending. Business indeed is a lot of privilege, but it's not because of the good life it can provide to the uh, travelers. Business have a lot of things that allows the successful people to have resources that they can do things that a normal person cannot. Right? Every successful business give you that kind of privilege, but it takes time to build to become an owner. But business is also a big trap. You don't never see the failure stories. Nobody mentioned the hundreds of failures alongside one success like Elon Musk. So every business that are successful is the same. And there are several things that they are the same. Number one is they lead. They are the leader of their sector. They are the number one or number two, never number three. And they successfully find their audience who cares about them. This is like a YouTube channel that finds its audience, a YouTube channel that has a lot of subscribers. A good business have a lot of subscribers. And they find ways to control the cost, and they have a business model that is very effective, very unique. In fact, some of the business models might be so unique that if you copy their business, if you steal their business, if you rob them, you would just become them. And they have all defeated their competitors. To be a lead means that you have defeated others. And the process of defeating a lot of times involves innovation. And as a result, they are a prestige to work with, and they have a lot of good people, and they can afford to keep them with good salary. So these are the things that a good business brings to a human being. And it is quite fun and quite a privilege. But not many people get to enjoy it. Just like not many people get to fly business class for a flight. We have mentioned that $5 million is important for freedom. The reason is with 5 million, even if you put it at a 2% a bank account, you're going to have enough money just from the interest payment alone to survive. So you don't have to work for somebody else, you can work for yourself. Now, to get to this is tremendously difficult. I have mentioned that it's very difficult to do it with a job unless you're a CEO or something. But that's not something that everybody can become, even with hard work. If you're not from a rich family, then a rich family must come from you. Otherwise, your next generation would repeat the same uh, life that you had. What is important here is that you need to realize that it takes a long time to become rich, to go from a wage earner to owner class to the business class. It is a generational thing. And ideally, you hope that you can finish two or three generations of work in your one lifetime. Now, I have seen a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs, and honestly, I think they end up having a small business. So, entrepreneurs who develop a business that can never grow, in my opinion, is kind of not even as good as if they have stayed at their old job and just use their talent to become a director or manager or something. So it is very important to start the right business. The right business is typically not a easy business. So if a business is easy to start, then it is likely not the right business because many people could start it to compete with you. The other thing is, why haven't anybody started this? Right? You can't just say, oh, nobody thought about it. So it is very important to consider the room to grow. If you don't have the room to grow, then you're not going to continue. The business will end up being a small, medium-sized business with one or five people. This is very important. As I mentioned, life is like a Mario Kart game, but most people take one go. This is a result if you only have one go and you're somewhat successful, is you're going to end up with a small success that really, I think, is not going to give you the rich that you want to have. You basically just work for yourself. What I'm saying may seem outlandish to some people who come from a working class parents from a working class background and whose family have been working on jobs all their lives. But if you look at some of the examples around us, you realize that very smart people do agree with what I'm saying. You have to become rich in your generation, and you need to start very young. So look at the examples of people who quit schools, right? Zuckerberg, Elizabeth Holmes, Michael Dell, and Mark Cuban, and Howard Schultz. Right? These people belong to a particular uh, race, and they certainly understand that quitting job is normal and quitting school is normal. They don't consider finishing school a badge of honor. Just like people like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, they don't consider going to college a badge of honor. They want to go to MBA directly. I'm not saying everyone have the talent, but I want to change your thinking about this whole thing of school and finishing schools. These people started to gather experience way before they finished college. And they didn't go to bad colleges. Most of them go to pretty good schools, and they have accomplishment before going to college. But they quit a job and do what they can. Jensen Huang made a point that he must start his own business before his 30th birthday, and he did it on his 30th birthday. Now, one of the things that people don't understand is that rich people have unlimited money because their money can work for them to get more money. But rich people also have no money. They actually have no use of money. They use financial vehicles like debt. They can use their asset to borrow money and then return it on some interest. They have stocks. Their stocks can appreciate over time, and they can sell a little bit of that and keep the principal. and they have a lot of tax deduction tools at their disposal. What is tax deduction? Tax deduction is the agreement with the government that certain activities, certain gains are not going to be taxed. Certain expenses are not going to be taxed. You see the company CEO in a business class flight, and that may be a tax deduction for the company for research, right? It's a loss. So you have to be very careful that rich people look at money differently. Don't consider money very limited. They consider money to be unlimited, and they can create it through through new relationships, new benefits that they can give to people. Now, what the rich and powerful do not want people of ordinary background to know is that the world have separate layers. They are levels, even in Western society. At the highest level are people with power and with generational money. They have influence. And at the lowest are people who are working on wages and hourly wages. And they cannot step off the treadmill for a single minute in their life, because the noose of inflation is so tight. Then there's a middle. The middle can be called middle class or whatever. It's supposed to be a rich and satisfying lifestyle, but previous years, people have seen that, the class is really being diminished, lower and lower. So there are levels of life, and I mentioned that you need to live 3 lives to try to go to the top, right? This is a Mario Kart. If you only live 1 life at your level, then you will stay at that level, or you may drop. So if you want to go to the next level, you have to work hard and work fast, maybe quit school early to do things that you basically work for yourself. Of course, you have to be very careful because business can also cause catastrophic loss. That's why a lot of people don't do it. But if you don't do it, then or you don't start early, then you always end up being at the bottom level. The worst enemy of a smart person is his or her insistence that he use his own idea. Smart entrepreneurs always copy. Bill Gates, Microsoft copied, right? Google copied. They did not have to invent the web browser. Tesla copied. There are a lot of electric cars before Tesla, and even Thomas Edison copied. The light bulb was improved by Edison, not invented by Edison. But smart people always copy. So the number one rule is don't be afraid to copy things. Don't be afraid to be the copier and improver. The inventor may be the first one to think about something, but the innovator is the first one to improve on something. Now, there are risks and rewards for becoming an entrepreneur. You become rich and famous, hopefully. You become someone that other people would follow. You have followers, you have subscribers. You become a who's who. You have influence. You can give jobs to friends' kids just because you like it. But there's certainly risks, and some people like Epstein may take it to the wrong level. But what's the outcome of not having influence? What's the outcome of not having assets? I think that's pretty clear that people should aspire to become a philosopher of life, to do as much as they can. But that's not what our schools teach. Our schools don't even touch this. A job is a very bad habit. Quit it. Old notion that, we should be loyal to our company and do a good job and get promotion and all these things is just a trap to keep people at the employee position for a whole life until you're 45, until you're 65, that you can no longer do anything, right? No matter how much you make, you cannot become rich. You cannot become rich from a job because people figured out how much to tax you, how much your grocery bill would be, how much your car, gas price would be, how much your insurance cost will be. They will make sure that they will take everything you made. So unless you try actively to change your level in society, nobody will help you change it. It will never happen miraculously. This is very important. Age is important. If you're watching this after you're 28 years old, then consider everything I give you bad influence. This is because you're never going to have enough time to go through the learning curves. Uh, if you're watching this after 28 and you agree with me, then do the best. Do yourself a favor. Try to become the CEO of your company. Just try to climb the management ladder and become higher paid in your organization. Your chance of having a reward from your entrepreneurial activity is very, very low. You will always hear stories of, oh, so and so started at age 65, and those are exceptions. Really, the after you're 28, you should focus on finishing up with what you started rather than trying to start something new. Well, the society have a lot of big lies, and those big lies cost people dearly until very late. One of the big lies is about education. They just make you think that, education is the ultimate of somebody's life achievement. That's not true. Finishing a school is just the start of a bigger school. Marriage is a lie out of love on first sight. Love on first sight. Some of that is true, but it doesn't really work for everyone. So again, it's not a devious lie. It's a happy hope to average people, right? And the whole thing about retirement, in my opinion, is a lie because they want to really just keep you at your job for as long as they want. What happens after 65, that's your business. And if you can still enjoy something, yeah, go for it, right? But your life is so set, and you can never change your level, and you can never become rich. You can never reach the 5E6. With this, that's the end of my podcast. I hope you learned what I'm thinking. $5 million is a crucial step for anyone to try to reach. And this is something you cannot get from your job. Never. If you want to start something, then I showed you some of the steps that you need to take, some of the expectations you need to have. And hopefully that gets you smarter. Hopefully that gets you off your chair and start doing something. The key is to do something about your ideas, not about your ideas. The instant that you start to do something, your plan becomes a reality and you start to realize the plan was not good. But that's where you keep on going. Thank you very much.